Good afternoon, Indiana educators. Once again, Eric Nentrup with Keep Indiana Learning, conducting the virtually different 2022 Keep Indiana Learning Summer Conference Partners Showcase. And joining me once again today are my friends from Reading Horizons. They're doing incredibly important work for educators around the state and beyond, and have some really fantastic information to share with you today before the conference kicks off tomorrow. So let me bring my friends Ahmed and Ethan online here for them to say hello, and once again introduce themselves to the crowd and what their roles and backgrounds are. So if you two don't mind giving a quick intro, we'll get into the heart of your presentation here momentarily.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us, Eric. We're super excited for the conference happening tomorrow and Wednesday. We'll hope to see you there as well. So a little bit of myself, I've been with the company for a little about 7 months. So we focus on elementary and also secondary education with the supplemental reading. So we're known specifically for our phonics and phonemic awareness. So we cater to a little bit over 70 school districts in Indiana, and I'm usually there once a month. So I'll be there again next week. So looking forward to scheduling some meetings with you guys next week. And I hand over the time to Ethan.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Ethan Lin. I reside in the great state of Illinois, so just a little west of you all. I'm an education specialist with Reading Horizons, so specialize in all things literacy from in the K-12 arena and even beyond. So I'm happy to be here and share with you some things that I'm very passionate about.
Very exciting. Well, Dr. Lin, I'm going to bring your slides up here and give you the floor, because as a former English teacher, I know this 20 minutes is going to fly by. But I'm really excited to hear even more from what you, based on what you shared last week. And I can't imagine Indiana educators would be any different. So the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Well, yeah, it was great. We had a webinar last week where we discussed our K-3 program, and now we're going to be discussing our 4 through 12 program here. As Hamed said, it's an explicit supplemental phonics program, and this one's going to be geared towards our older students. And just to give a little background, you know, who are we? Who is Reading Horizons? Reading Horizons started in central Illinois, the town of Decatur, if you're familiar with Illinois geography, by an educator named Charlotte Lockhart. And she was Orton Gillingham trained, and she took her training and then started applying it to students and tweaked the curriculum a little bit and kind of made it her own. And Reading Horizons became official in 1984. So we've been around for quite a while now, going on almost 40 years. As you can see here, we're using a variety of settings. So we can be used in the K-3 mainstream setting, and we're also used K-12 intervention. And that's what we'll focus on today, is our 4 through 12 intervention piece. We blend ourselves well to a blended learning model. We've got direct instruction, and we've also got a software component to that. And with that, we do target our English language learners or our multi-language students, and also students who may have dyslexia or other sort of specialties there in the special ed departments. So yeah, we'll be focusing on this here, the Reading Horizons Elevate. Now, what's the motivation behind this? Okay, a lot of you might be familiar with what this is, the 4th grade slump here. So you can see, you know, as students get that instruction in their first about 3 or 4 grades, they're able to compensate, and it looks like they're excelling. They're learning to read. They've got compensatory skills. But once 4th grade hits, the texts and the expectations change. Texts become more informationally dense. The grammatical structures and vocabulary features become more complex. And students who may have been kind of compensating or getting by in a grade K-3 setting are finally put to the test, and their reading skills that they've developed have issues, and they start to hit that 4th grade slump. And essentially, reading scores tend to plateau, and there's not much growth once they hit that reading to learn. So they're learning to read, and once they transition from the reading to learn, they tend to slump. And that's our motivation here, is we realize that this happens. There are students, for whatever reason, that don't have the adequate skills, don't have that adequate background once they reach 4th grade and beyond. And a lot of times, programs that are out there designed for more of a K-2 or K-3. And so these students who might need extra help often have these programs that are geared more towards children and not geared towards an age-appropriate audience. And it can be demotivating. It can really slow them down and really be a stumbling block for them. And so at Reading Horizons, we realized this. And so we've created a specific grade 4 and above reading curriculum to address this this fourth grade slump. I personally have used the Elevate program with great success. I taught adult English language learners in a higher education setting, very low English language ability. And I used this program with them and saw them excel. We've seen a lot of students kind of get a second lease on life, or a second chance, if you will, that the last train hasn't left the station. They have another chance here to regroup and refocus on these fundamental skills to get them going and caught up with their peers. So with Reading Horizons, we'll talk a little bit about our method. What can you expect, the curriculum of Reading Horizons? And then we'll also discuss a little bit after this, we'll discuss a little bit about what a lesson looks like, what it can look like in the classroom. So here with the method, what is Reading Horizons? So we've got 3 primary lessons here for our Elevate students. We've got decoding lessons, so we're focusing on phonics, and we're then trying to transfer those skills to connected texts. We focus on most common word instruction, and then we also have reference lessons, which cover grammatical issues or parts of speech, things like that, to help them get a complete reading experience there. So within this curriculum, we've got 6 chapters. Okay, we'll walk through these 6 chapters. We'll focus on the first 4, but we'll walk through these chapters and what you can expect. And then I'll tie this in here, if I've got somebody in 4th grade or someone in 8th grade, maybe even 10th grade, what you can expect here in terms of pacing and intensity here. So the first chapter, okay, we're going to go all the way back to the basics. We're going to go back to that alphabetic principle. We're going to go back to the name, the sound, the uppercase, and the lowercase formation. Now I'm going to press pause here because I know some people who might be watching like, hey, wait a second, my students are beyond this. This is you had mentioned you want to engage them, you want to be motivating. This could instantly be a red flag. Hey, this could be very demotivating. We realize that. So what we try to do here in this chapter 1 is expedite chapter 1. We say as quickly as you can, but as slowly as you must. Oftentimes we come into high schools where students are just not quite at performing where they should be. And we realize there are already holes here in the alphabetic principle, whether it's a BD reversal or getting their short vowels situated here, that oftentimes it's just assumed that they have this knowledge and they've kind of just been passed from grade to grade to grade. And then they reach, what is it, like an 8th grade or a 10th grade, they don't have those foundational skills, and it becomes quite an issue to address those. So we come back here to the basics and we really fill in these gaps. We come in with the expectation that we'll expedite and go quickly, but as soon as we see any issues or any holes, we want to stop and fill those holes before moving on, because this is a lot of times their last chance of getting these foundational skills. And so we present it in a way that's engaging and motivating for these students here in grades 4 and above. So this is chapter 1, hitting this alphabetic principle. If you want, you can get through this as quickly as 3 days, and we encourage you to go as quickly as you can, that as long as it makes sense.
And I would, as a former high school English teacher who encountered such students that had been cans kicked down the road by prior teachers in prior schools, I can't emphasize enough how those 3 days would be an investment, not a cost.
Exactly. And we train the teachers how to present this in a motivating way. Hey, you guys probably already know this. We just got to check some boxes before we can get on to the stuff that you really need. And yeah, it's really it's fun to see these students' body language completely changes even in one session. Like, hey, I'm getting this. I'm getting the instruction that I need. It's quite an experience. So with chapter 1, they're learning the basics of the alphabet, and then they're also building basic CVC words. So nothing crazy here. Basic 1-syllable CVC words with short vowels here. And we're going to be using a fun vocabulary model here. I'll show you the vocabulary model that we engage our students in. So whenever students are learning to decode a word, whenever they're marking a word or whatever, we're going to be embedding this in what's called a 4-part processor to increase word recognition and increase their vocabulary. So first, we activate the phonological and the orthographic processor. So pretty much how it's written and how it's spoken, we want to link those up as quickly as possible. If you notice here, there it forms a little triangle where we associate meaning. So the written language, how it's written and spoken, and then we connect that with meaning. And then we want to be using that in context. That is going to be absolutely key. We have a wonderful dictionary tool within Elevate, over 10,000 entries. It's created as a learner dictionary. So meaning the definitions are actually accessible. There's kind of a joke that you need a dictionary in order to be able to read a dictionary, especially if you're struggling with reading. So we include learner dictionary entries, and then we define words that have multiple definitions. They're called polysemous words. So we have multiple definitions, embedding them in accessible context sentences, really helping the students get this vocabulary, because vocabulary is absolutely key when these students are learning to read. So everything we do here, every lesson we have is going to have a focus on vocabulary, not just getting their decoding, but getting their language up, because it's a vicious cycle. If they don't have the reading skills, they're not reading as much, they're not decoding, they're not getting that exposure to text, they're not learning that vocabulary implicitly. So they've got more than just a decoding deficit, they've got that vocabulary deficit that we're trying to close as well. Okay, so chapter 2 coming up next here. We're just going to add foundational principles. So we're going to be adding consonant blends and digraphs. So nothing too much here, but we're just kind of adding to that those basic CVC words there. All of your hard work there in chapters 1 and 2 start to pay off here in chapter 3. And chapter 3 is kind of where students start to, if students are proficient, this is where they kind of hit their threshold here, that students will start to really engage and start really learning new skills and concepts if they already have proficiency in chapters 1 and 2. And once again, you can go quickly through that chapter 2, go as quickly as you can through that chapter 2 to get to this point here. So chapter 3 is all about single syllable words. And within these single syllable words, the whole focus is a vowel going to be long, or is the vowel going to be short within a CVC word, essentially? So here, the first skill, as you can see, this is a short vowel skill, sometimes referred to as a closed syllable. I know when I went through linguistics classes, programs, and I didn't know what a closed syllable was. I didn't really know what a short or long vowel was, and that's okay. Especially, secondary teachers of upper elementary may not have gotten this training, and we understand that. I was a curriculum coordinator at a university intensive English program. I didn't know these things. I felt kind of bashful. I felt kind of almost ashamed that I didn't know these things. And then Reading Horizons came in and did a free training, and boom, light bulbs went off. The language was unlocked for me. I could then turn around and unlock it for the teachers. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lift that stigma of, I don't know how to teach basic reading. That's okay. Not a lot of people do. I went through a PhD program and didn't learn, and that's okay. We want to take away that stigma, those barriers, and unlock this world for you. And so I'll just walk through these skills here very quickly. So the first skill, if you notice there's a vowel, if it's followed by one consonant, the vowel will be short. So the sound is F. The word here, as you can see, is met. The second skill is if there are two consonants following a vowel, the vowel will be short. So in this case, the sound is the word is jump, because I've got two of those consonants. The third skill is referred to sometimes as an open syllable. Here, the vowel stands alone. There's no consonant, stands alone. It will be long. In this case, it's E. The word is me. The fourth is our silent E rule. So silent E at the end, previous vowel will be long, bike. And then number 5, for certain vowels that are together, we call them adjacent vowel combinations. If you want to sound fancy here, adjacent vowel combinations, that second vowel is going to be silent, and that first vowel will be long. So you've got the word boat. Okay, that's what we're working here in chapter 3, is getting our students to decode single syllable words, the vowel long or short. And then it really comes to fruition here in chapter 4. Chapter 4 is what I like to consider the promised land, if you will. Here is the promised land in chapter 4. So we teach students how to divide multi-syllabic words, where to divide. They already know how to do single syllables, but if you encounter a multi-syllabic word, well, where do I divide? So this is what we teach you. We teach 2 more skills. So we taught 5 phonetic skills in chapter 3. We teach 2 decoding skills here in chapter 4. So the first one is one must run. If you notice, I have my O and my E as my 2 vowels in this multi-syllabic word. Well, how many consonants are in between my vowels? Well, there's one. One must run. See, it runs forward, connects to the next syllable. I divide between the O and the T. Students already know how to decode single syllables. So here is mo, because there's no consonant following. Tell, because there is that consonant. Put that together, you have the word motel. Second skill, 2 will split. So now I have 2 consonants between my vowels. They're going to separate. So I divide right between the B and the J. Well, here I have a consonant, so it's going to be a short vowel sub. 2 consonants here following my vowel, meaning it's short. Ject, I put that together, I have the word subject. And this is why this is the promised land right here. Is because here in chapter 4, they're able to decode words of any length. They know where to divide. They know what to mark. They can start decoding each syllable and put that together. So here you have con, you've got tem, and plate. You put that together, you have the word contemplate. That's the beautiful thing.
Yes.
Students they're unleashed, so to speak. They're able to decode words of any length, and they're able to become. So we reverse the vicious cycle, and then we create the virtuous cycle. Students can access the
Mm,
language, they can read, more exposure to print, and then with that exposure to print, there's more vocabulary, more implicit grammar, more content knowledge, which then is a positive feedback, which motivates them to further read, and it creates the virtuous cycle here. And that's what we're hoping to do with
nice.
these students, is break in, reverse the vicious cycle, put it in reverse, and then start the virtuous cycle of reading.
Well, I think your hope is well grounded. It looks to me like the decoding that's happened for both students and teacher, for the instructional backfilling, so to speak, is accomplished even in those first 4 chapters for both teacher and learner.
Yes, it's for me as an educator and the teachers that I oversaw as a curriculum coordinator, it was empowering. It was kind of like everyone breathed a sigh of relief and kind of aired it out, like, oh, you don't know that? Oh, what was that? We kind of had a sigh of relief, and then we're like, oh, this makes sense. And then it became a positive buzz amongst the teachers, and then we were able to communicate that and transfer that to our students, and our students caught fire as well. It was a very positive, complete paradigm shift within our program that we were in, and it was a lot of fun as all of us were accessing and unlocking the language.
So great. Well, show us.
Yeah.
I know we don't. I don't want to steal thunder from your presentation starting tomorrow, but I know we do have a couple more minutes left, and I'm hungry to learn more because you're increasing my own professional vocabulary by watching this presentation and thinking back to how I wasn't prepared to teach what I was teaching all those years. So by all means, tell me a little bit more there, Ethan.
Yeah. I'll just finish up here the method here by covering chapters 5 and 6. So chapter 5, R controlled vowels. That just means vowel with an R, A R O R I R U R. We teach them the different pronunciations of those. They vary. We teach other digraphs, so like less frequent digraphs. And then we also teach special vowel sounds. So what happens when there's an OO or an OW or an OU or an AU or an AW? We teach those are sometimes referred to as diphthongs. We teach the students those, as well as additional patterns, more nuanced patterns there in chapter 6. And I think within the couple minutes that we have left, I want to show what a lesson looks like. So, okay, this method is great, but what does it actually look like in my classroom? Okay, it's one thing to have a wonderful method on paper, but what does it look like in practice? So we have a core 4 where we've got 4 parts. We review, we provide direct instruction, we engage in a practice. It's called a multisensory dictation, and then we transfer these to connected text. That's what we want to do. We want to build autonomous, automatic readers who can apply these skills to connected text. We first raise the awareness, explicit memory, the declarative memory, and then we want to routinize. We want to automatize these skills into the procedural memory for these students. So we have a blended learning approach where we've got software with direct instruction. We recommend putting the students on the software first, getting the diagnostic data, getting a feel for their Lexile score. Where are they? Set them on a couple of lessons, get that feedback, and then groups and needs will begin to emerge. And then you can target your direct instruction accordingly on a per student basis or a small group, a group by group basis there, where you can really target that instruction of what those students need. So the review and the instruction we've mentioned here, you can be whole class. Sometimes I've seen it in grades 4 and 5, especially with COVID learning loss, but oftentimes I see it with this differentiated and the individualized instruction there, that interplay between the software and targeting specific students for specific needs. Next, we'll engage our students in dictation. So within a lesson, we have this method where the students will hear a word twice, being dictated from the teacher. The students will then repeat the word twice. They will write the word. While they're writing that word, they're hearing it in a sentence, and then they're going to read the word twice. And so that is a great way to see if the lessons are sinking in, and you can catch errors, or you can see how things are performing in real time. You're not relying on a worksheet after the fact. You're seeing in the moment, in the process. You can be very dynamic and adaptive there. The final piece of one of our lessons, so after we've engaged our students in this dictation, is we want to transfer to connected text. We have transfer cards. Notice the marks are gone. Word and sentence level fluency can be practiced with these. And then we launch our students into expository reading texts, which are controlled. They're controlled for vocabulary and they're controlled for grammar. Simplified text, but they're nonfiction related to what they're learning in their content classes. With comprehension questions, it's a scaffold. It's a chance for them to practice in a lower stakes environment there, and they can develop that automaticity in reading expository text, which they've struggled with probably their entire academic career once they've begun the reading to learn process. And this is what we hope to do. We hope to take these resources, these cards, and these passages. We want them to bridge out of our program, and we want to bridge them back into their content classes. So after they've had a chance to practice with our texts, with our program, bring in a science text, bring in a social studies, whatever it might be, start to decode, look for words that you can decode, and transfer those skills from our program. We're just a means. Okay, we want you to transfer those and get them back into those content classes where they can then, with their new reading skills, they can accelerate, they can flourish rather than struggle there, breaking that cycle once again. And so that's our aim here with our lesson sequence here. This design is to get our students bridging out of this intensive phonics. We only want them to be here temporarily, get them back in the classroom and get them on that upward trajectory.
Love it.
So yeah,
it's an equity builder. You're opening up opportunities for students that don't want to be English teachers like I did, and it might make their content area of interest even more of a center of passion for their continued study and growth and high interest instructional activities when instructors are able to align interests with lessons and standards and so forth. Literacy truly is the discipline that makes all others possible. And I think Reading Horizons has an obvious framework with decades of proof and use cases. And you're going to be sharing more of that during our time together during the session tomorrow. I get to be an attendee and check out these sessions and watch these other potential prospective school partners for you come to the forefront. Can we take a minute to talk about, as we wrap this up, talk about what to expect in your presentations Tuesday and Wednesday?
Yeah. Hamid, did you want me to take that, or did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to kind of touch on what you mentioned as well. What Ethan went over as far as our Elevate goes, there's also a software component that we're going to touch on a little bit more on Wednesday. We're also going to give away 4 Amazon gift cards and also a $500 professional learning as well. So that's kind of what our audience should look forward to. We're going to cover the younger kids and also the older kids on our Wednesday session. The last 30 minutes is just going to be mostly Q&A and also raffle prizes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Lots of good stuff coming from Reading Horizons, everyone. What time are your session Tuesday and Wednesday?
Yeah, so our session on Wednesday is going to be 12 p.m., just like exhibit hall. And also on our session tomorrow is going to be around 11:45.
11:45, and then a lunch and learn at noon during the digital or virtual exhibit hall with the other sponsors and vendors. You're going to be covering both primary and secondary literacy needs and solutions provided by Reading Horizons, regardless of what level you teach. But just as I have learned, I'd recommend anybody watching this particular webinar or going through the HUVA event schedule to consider that the fact that you might be inheriting students for whom the can has been kicked down the road, like I experienced teaching for an inner city public charter for several years, hoping I could figure out some support. I truly would have used you guys had I would have known. I had other tools and cobbled together my own solutions and probably worked harder, not smarter. And much like Dr. Lynn had pointed out, I mean, Ethan, you brought the learning science to the forefront here, but you did not let that kind of cloud the path forward. It's very objective using the Reading Horizons approach, it sounds like to me. Is that accurate?
Definitely, yeah. It's there's a deliberate and explicit and systematic scope and sequence, and we're definitely there. We want to incorporate the science of learning and all of that in there and get our students as quickly as they can up to speed with their grade level peers.
Well, I wish you two the best with your attendees Wednesday and Thursday during the virtually different 2022 Keep Indiana Learning virtual conference and beyond. Thank you so much for not just participating in this event with us and being a sponsor, but also for continuing to believe in what you're doing and seeing the outcomes school district by school district across the country. And I can guarantee you that Indiana educators are going to be responsive. So thank you so very much for your time. And everyone listening, please be sure to check out Reading Horizons on Wednesday and Thursday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, Wednesday at 11:45 and noon for their lunch and learn with plenty of giveaways. So once again, Eric Nentrop for Keep Indiana Learning, wishing everybody a wonderful event tomorrow. Be sure to check out Reading Horizons. Take care.